with our pole, some of the shapes we can make there. As always, not an exhaustive list, just some suggestions, some things to kind of get your brains working out. So we're gonna start with some ways we can pause in getting to the floor. And then we're gonna discuss some of just the general floor shapes. With our floor stuff, we are gonna have a mat that goes along with the X pole to the halter. So you will have some padding, especially if you're doing a lot of floor-based stuff or if you feel more comfortable working with padding. Just keep in mind, padding and heels do not go together. So if there are some things you want to do in heels, maybe you do all of those in one set earlier on or later on. And then the other set where you're going to want the mat, you kind of separate those tricks out so that you're not halfway through kind of your set of poses during the night, having to switch over out of shoes or into shoes. Try and get on the stage how you're going to be on the stage for at least that set of tricks. And then you can change that over the next time you use the pole. But we're going to start with one of our thread through slide shapes that I always think is just a fun and cool shape. Inside arm goes up high, back hand's going to be behind you to help stabilize. It can also hit the floor if it needs to. And I'm just going to thread my leg through. And once we get close enough to the floor, we can put one hand down. My hip is still floating. My weight is split between my front leg and then my two arms. If this does get too intensive, we can always drop that hip down. And then this arm can stay up, or it can come along the leg or out into space. This back leg can be straight, or it can be bent. Same with this front leg, it can stay where it is, or if we're bending that back leg, we can always put it into different shapes and positions from here with that stabilizing arm and pushing back. One of the other thread through shapes that we create is going to come from that wrap around here, where I can now take this inside leg and drive it back, and we can kind of come into this really dramatic lunge shape around the pole. Once again, make sure your body is comfortable in that shape, so coming into it on the ground, I always get a foot cramp in that one, so that's one that I would need to do with shoes on, or one I would leave for somebody else to do. Same thing is going to go for any of our straddle back poses. So that would be from here, we can come back, and we can hold here if we would like to. It is going to be very arm intensive. Or we can bend those knees and come back. We can also lower down those arms and straighten the legs back if you want it to be closer to the floor for more of a back arch. And then the last one, kind of in our sliding down poses that we can utilize, is going to be any of our shoulder mount slides. So these are going to be intensive on that shoulder and are going to take quite a bit of leg strength. But these are away from the pole, walking down, and then stopping at whatever point you would like to angle-wise. We can cross the legs, we can straighten a leg. Just keep in mind, that is all that nice big trapezius muscle pressure. So, those aren't ones that we necessarily hold for long periods of time. Now, actual just floor-based stuff around the pole. Any spin shape that we create with our legs, any fun shape like that can be around the floor. Just keep in mind with people drawing you, they're not necessarily going to be looking at you from above. They might approach to look at you from above. But if I'm just sort of sitting here like this is not the most interesting pose, especially if we're wearing black and you are against the black mat or the black X stage. The angles are kind of going to get lost. So we do want to think about those shapes that we're creating. Some kind of fun ones with perspective though that we can do are any of the ones where I'm going to have my head back. Because now, drawing-wise, we've created this really fun kind of optical shape. And we can do all sorts of things with our legs here. They can go up the pole. They can straddle. We can do that pole push away that we've done before to come into more of a candlestick. You are welcome to candlestick. Just be aware that on the X stage, your space is going to be a little limited. Next to our pole, so not even necessarily involving the pole, we could do any of our goddess variations. So if what we're wearing is nice and tight, we can create those nice big arches away from the floor. We can also do these interacting with our pole. So we can come into any of those kind of candlestick positions around the pole or utilizing the pole just to create fun shapes on the floor, using the pole if we need to as kind of a prop to help us stay up, to make that a little bit less exhausting for the arms. Obviously, flexibility-wise, we can do splits on and off of our pole. We can do any of our kind of half poses. A fun one might be stopping at any point during your diamond pirouette, even though I know people don't like their diamond pirouettes. So that would be coming into that nice big pull and then coming out onto those toes into that diamond shape. We can have one knee on the ground if needed. We can float with both up. Just be aware that will be arm intensive. If you come to the Wednesday night classes, any of that kind of floor work shape stuff is going to be fun. Dancer push-ups, that nice big scorpion hold, any of those interesting shapes. You don't necessarily have to interact with the pole 100% of the time. With our kind of also the slides down, things that get stuck in the middle shape-wise are going to be any of our stands. So that rock and roll stand, that one leg up, pushing out and resting the glute down onto the heel in order to bring the other leg up. Any of these kind of shapes that we use in our stands are also going to be interesting to draw. Flexibility-wise, that's where we're going. We can create all sorts of fun pseudo or true flexibility tricks around our pole, using the pole as a counter. So obviously I can rest my leg on it, or it doesn't take a whole lot of flexibility to pull that leg away from the pole. But now that we have something for the leg to be parallel to, it makes that flexibility look quite a bit more impressive. We can play with all sorts of shapes down here. This is sort of one of the more fun areas to explore, figuring out what kind of poses you like to do, what kind of poses you would like working with, and then moving forward from there. But really the floor is the limit. The edge of the X stage is the limit. So we can do anything that we feel comfortable and stable doing as long as we have the space to do it on that stage. Hopefully this helps. I'll upload the last video sometime this week with our more advanced holds. So those are going to be our sits, some of our climb shapes, our jasmines and our jagged edges, things that are going to be a lot more strength intensive, a lot more uncomfortable, and that I do ask you only do if you have worked on them in classes before. Thanks, guys.